Hi everyone, and welcome to the channel. My name is Infantry Pulse, and today we're going to be continuing our Top 5 series with Infantry Sword units. So there are a lot of very good Infantry Sword units to go through. So if your favorite did not make the list today, I'm sorry, they're probably still great. But I did have to choose a top 5 and then throw in some honorable mentions just to fill it out. But yeah. Really great units, really hard to rank within a top 5. They're just... There's the term God Sword is thrown around quite a bit, and a lot of these units really embody that archetype. So without further ado, let's get into number 5.
In order to protect Milla, a warrior priestess must be adept with both magic and the sword.
So first up we have Brave Celica. So Brave Celica used to be mainly a Gale Forcer with her double lion ability in her B slot. Allows her to make a follow-up like a Brave, which basically turns any weapon into a Brave weapon. So it made her a good Fire Sweep user, especially with Gale Force and Heavy Blade and that kind of stuff. But she recently got her Refine, which actually makes her a really good tank. So she's kind of switched roles. So Refine gives her a bunch of extra stats, as they often do, right? But it also gives her special acceleration, and it gives her out-of-combat healing and a special charge. So she is a very, very independent tank. So you run Soul with her after combat, she takes it down to 2 charge, and then in combat she gets hit and gets an extra special charge from getting hit. So then all of a sudden she has Soul ready to fire off against the enemy on that first attack, which is when you want Soul to go off, is on the first attack, so you can get the most healing out of it possible. So I've shown her as a null follow-up tank. She's really good at that role, especially in Light Season, now that we have both Dagger and Air giving her bonus resistance. Makes her have actually perfectly balanced stats in terms of her defenses, on top of her extra stats that she's getting from Royal Sword. So she is just a very, very strong tank, and has that utility of also being able to Gale Force if that's your preferred role for her.
Wipe it all away. Everything.
Coming in at number 4, we have Fallen Ike. Now, it's kind of hard to put Fallen Ike so low in the top 5 because he is such a great and meta-defining in a lot of ways unit. So his weapon has bonus stats, it has distant counter, but more importantly, it has this kind of debuff reverser mechanic, where if he has, you know, -7 speed, then he's going to turn that into +7 speed instead. So he actually wants to soak both shrines. He wants to be able to, you know, take on all of these debuffs that your opponent might give him. I've shown him here as an Astra tank. He also works very, very well, perhaps even better in Light Season, but I wanted to show, you know, variety here. I'm also showing him as a Spurn tank. He is very good at that role. He can also be a null follow-up tank. That's also an option for him. But I think Spurn really plays to his strengths, because he's going to be firing off that Mayhem Ether. Now this is with Brave Lucina support. That would be the ideal. So he'd be within 2 spaces to affect attack res unity, which does stack with his Chaos Ragnal, right? So it kind of does debuff reverser doubler. Yeah, that's a lot of words, but that's the idea, on his attack and res. So his res gets very thick, really able to withstand a lot of units very, very well. And with Brave Lucina support, he's going to fire off that Mayhem Ether on his second attack, which is also really strong. It's the same as Ether, right? So it's combined Luna and Soul, except that it's 4 charge instead of 5 charge. So being an even number charge means that he can charge it up really well with Brave Lucina's special acceleration and hit very, very hard while healing for a ton.
Combat strategy. I learned it all from my father.
Coming in at number 3, we have Female Bilith. And I've chosen Female Bilith. This could easily be Male Bilith. If I put them both on the tier list, it would be basically the same build. They're basically the same unit. They have very marginally different stats. So just imagine in your brain that we've combined male and female Bilith into this number 3 position so we could fit more units onto the top 5. So they're very similar in a lot of ways. I've shown here an arena build. So the arena build is really good because Creator Sword basically says, screw you and your rule breaking, right? So it says no special acceleration or deceleration and null follow-up. So it's really good for an arena build where there's a lot of armor units where the armor skills are basically those effects, right? The armor skills are messing with follow-ups and messing with special acceleration, and Creator Sword says you're not going to do either of those things. So it makes her a really good arena unit. Now, she can also be a very, very strong Aether Raids carry. She can be a carry in Light Season especially, with the ability to have null follow-up on her weapon. She can be a Spurn tank that also has null follow-up, so she can do both things at once, which is really, really good. But I've just chosen to show an arena build just because reasons. That's all. So I chose Blue Flame as the special because Creator Sword does have the slaying effect, so it has -1 special cooldown. And although she does come with Ruptured Sky, I thought that Blue Flame might be better because being then a 2-charge special, she attacks, she gets hit back, she attacks again. Makes her a better player phase unit. As far as enemy phasing, then Ruptured Sky would be your choice. It doesn't really matter. You can just keep Ruptured Sky, truthfully, if you want to make her more of an enemy phase unit. But overall, just a really, really strong unit, whether it be in Aether Raids or an arena.
Glory to Benyon!
Next up is number 2, and definitely one of the most meta-centralizing units in the game, and that is Winter Altina. So Winter Altina has press button, get unconditional Vantage. So Vantage usually has the HP threshold. Winter Altina's Harmonize effect gives her the Vantage regardless of her HP stat. So this is the build that I actually personally run on my Winter Altina. She's not +10, but she does very, very well with this build. So Odd Tempest allows her to engage pretty easily onto the enemy. Attack Res Solo makes it so that she is more independent than using Attack Res Unity, and honestly, truthfully, often gives her a similar number of stats. So I think that's a good thing for her. And I do run Heavy Blade because I think that it is pretty good when you stack her attack this much to get that Twin Blades off on every attack. So Twin Blades cuts through damage reduction as well as giving her like a mini iceberg. So stacking her attack and res with Attack Res Solo makes her really, really strong. Having the dual phase Brave weapon with the unconditional Vantage makes it really, really great. Now, obviously, you have to be wary of things with Hardy Bearing, and obviously, Duo's Hindrance can really, really mess her up. But you'd be surprised with this odd follow-up engage after a smite, how many teams she can get around to either snipe the Duo's Hindrance or to snipe the enemy Duo/Harmonize unit on the team so she can activate that skill. It's a really, really strong build, and it's a really, really incredibly powerful meta-centralizing unit. Next up, we're going to get into some honorable mentions. And so our first honorable mention is going to be Ira. And Ira is very, very strong. I went really hard back and forth with her and a lot of the other units in the top 5. So I wanted to give her the first honorable mention position because if Brave Celica's number 5, she's number 6, and that's even very debatable. So Ira's weapon gives her extra stats, it gives her a slaying effect, it gives her damage reduction on the opponent's first hit. It's really good. I'm sorry if you can hear the lawnmower going on outside. Whatever. Anyway, back to Ira. So Ira is just a very, very strong unit. This build with Soul is ideally paired up with a Brave Lucina behind her, so she can fire off Soul on every counterattack. She is running Speed Res Solo to kind of balance out her defenses, but she is getting a ton of extra stats, a ton of extra bulk from her weapon, as well as the damage reduction on the first hit. So going plus speed with her is probably the ideal because you want her to always outspeed the opponent. So she's getting damage reduction on that first hit, hitting back with soul, and then basically ending the enemy's whole career with her second attack, right? You can also, you know, choose to run her in more of a PvE context and run Regnal Astra, or even on Aether Raid's defense with Regnal Astra, she can be very, very strong, even on a not Infantry Pulse type setup. Next up, we have Male Chris. So Male Chris has extra stats on his weapon, and he also has Ignore debuffs. So that's actually really good. Shannon also has this effect, but Chris has better stats and kind of a better weapon. Shannon has really low res. As you can see here, Chris has even bulk, so I think Chris is better than Shannon, strictly speaking. So I've chosen to run him as another null follow-up tank in the light season, which is what you've seen a lot already in this video, right? You can also be a spurn tank, obviously. I think that units without damage reduction in their weapon, though, might be better using null follow-up, right? Or sorry, units that don't have null follow-up with their weapon are better using null follow-up in the B slot. So like Ira had damage reduction already, makes her a really good null follow-up user. I think that overall null follow-up is a better skill than spurn in most situations. Obviously, like spurn gives you a ton more bulk, but I think null follow-up is the way to go with a lot of these sword tanks. And finally, our last honorable mention is going to be Young Marth. And I wanted to, there are a lot of other great sword units, like Fallen Celica, for example, but I wanted to give a little bit of variety here, showing Young Marth as a Vantage unit. So you'll notice that Ardent Sacrifice is his assist skill, so he is meant to be used with Winter Bernadetta. So by using Winter Bernadetta and giving 2 Ardent Sacrifices to your friends to recharge them after they've been hit by Winter Bernadetta's Hrist Tome. Basically what happens is he's automatically in Vantage range, and being automatically in Vantage range and Brazen range means that he has the ability to run Null Sea Disrupt in his B slot and automatically counterattack before the foe can attack. Hero's Blood is also a very low charge special that gives him extra damage based on his speed. It's the same as Legendary Marth's Fire Emblem, if you're familiar with that. Defense Smoke is obviously a great skill for Vantage users, but Young Marth also not only has the Vantage built into his Rapier, he also has dual effectiveness. So he can counter both armors and cavalries. It makes him very, very good against things like save balls, for example. He can really, really deal a good amount of damage to armored units, and also by running this Null Sea Disrupt set, it makes him a good counter to a lot of cav lines. You're going to have some problems still with Duo Lif, but if your opponent's not running that duo, and honestly, you might have some problems with Reinhardt as well. But if you can tank Reinhardt with a different unit, he can really, really do some damage to basically every healer that's going to be attacking into you, right? So those flash healers that might give you some problems, he's going to be able to counterattack against them and deal a ton of damage. So yeah, he's also a 4-star focus unit on an upcoming banner. So if you are looking to have a good Astra Vantage carry, I think Marth does that job very well.
One day, Mother and Father, my sword will be as strong as yours.
And finally, my pick for the #1 best sword unit, and also for the #1 best unit in Fire Emblem Heroes right now, is Marita. So Marita has extra stats in her sword, she has Slaying Effect, and she has Null Follow-Up. So put all those things combined, you can then run Spurn, and with Brave Lucina support, she can actually fire off a soul every single time. So she has Null Follow-Up, damage reduction, extra stats. It's crazy, right? And she's healing on every single hit. So she gets very, very fast. She gets very, very strong as well. She is easily the best carry. You could also just run her with Noontime to make her more independent, or you can run her with Aether to make sure that she really secures every single one of those kills. Marita is just a very incredibly powerful unit, and definitely not something to be underestimated by any means. And that brings us to the end of the video. So there are, again, a lot of great sword units, a lot of them very comparable in a lot of ways, a lot of them fulfilling the same niche of being either spurn tanks or null follow-up tanks, or both in the case of things like Marita and Bilith. But definitely very, very strong units. Some of the best units in the game, definitely on this tier list. Not really tier list, top 5. Not a tier list. But yeah, if you guys liked the video, make sure to give the video a like. If you're not already subscribed, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and join the Discord. There's a link below in the description. We have a lot of great people in the Discord that give each other help with Aether raids and, you know, just hang out and talk about Fire Emblem Heroes. So if you're looking for a community that's really, really healthy and just kind people, that's definitely the place to go, is to the Discord. But yeah, thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with the Lance Infantry video. Until then, I'll talk to you later. Bye!